Race and the justice system in Canada. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. The Trudeau government commissioned a report a while back on a black justice system reform. That report has now come in. Its official title is Canada's Black Justice Strategy, a Framework. Now, what are some of the ideas put forward in this? Well, it calls for easier access to bail. It calls for reducing the prison population by 30% over the next several years. It calls for sentencing reform. It calls for legalizing of hard drugs, reducing police budgets. This is basically a progressive dream when it comes to dismantling the criminal justice system, and it has very little to do with race. That is a front for it. You don't have to take my word for it. You can ask Jamil Jivani, the Conservative MP for Durham, former Toronto Sun columnist and one-time talk show host, joins me now. Jamil, thanks for the time today.
Yeah, happy to be back with you, Brian.
I got to ask you, it was first time doing an interview since you became an MP rather than a colleague of mine, so congratulations on that. It's got to be great for you.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be fighting for the people of Durham every day.
But we've got this thing that's come out. It's called a Black Justice Strategy from the federal government. And as a black man, as a black MP, you're saying, no, this is crazy. What is it about this that makes you say, no, I don't support this?
Well, I mean, the first issue that every Canadian needs to be concerned about is the fact that Justin Trudeau has broken our justice system. It's not working. Criminals are not being stopped. Repeat offenders are being released back into the community. Crime is up. And so any kind of justice strategy needs to be focused on addressing what Justin Trudeau has broken. The many problems with this Black justice strategy is that it's only exacerbating the bad policies that the Liberal government has already brought in. And at a time where crime is going up, and Black Canadians are suffering from that increase in crime, you would think that the focus would be on how we keep all Canadians, including Black Canadians, safe. But that's not the focus of this strategy at all. It wants to make bail more accessible, not less accessible than Justin Trudeau has already made it. Wants to decrease the prison population over the next 10 years by 30%, regardless of the severity or frequency of crime.
We'll just cut the population by 30%. Like, did it just sound like a good number? So we'll go with it.
Yeah, and these are the kind of radical policies being recommended to the Liberals. I've been calling on the Liberals to reject these ideas. I hope that they will listen. But the reality is, as a Black Canadian, as a Black man, it is especially frustrating that these very radical, harmful policies are being recommended as if they're good for Black Canadians. Over 1 out of 10, over 13% of homicide victims in Canada are Black men and Black women. And the idea that you would make crime worse and say that it's good for Black people is insane, or as the leader of our party might say, wacko. And yet that is what's happening right now.
So it's always portrayed as, well, this is to help the Black community, but it seems to believe that the Black community are people who are in jail, not the victims of crime. And if you go into neighborhoods, whether it's Toronto or elsewhere in this country, that predominantly Black or high level of Black population, you hear from people in the neighborhood. What do they tell the police? We want you to protect us from the criminals.
Yeah, and this has been the scam of the anti-police agenda that has been going on for years, and that the Liberals have been entertaining and being part of, which is that if you look at any data, and the University of Toronto actually did a survey in Toronto on this a couple of years ago, and found that in low-income neighborhoods of Toronto, where you do have a lot of Black families, you will find that one of the top asks of the government is more police. And yet the Black justice strategy that the Liberals have released is one that is saying we need to cut police budgets. This is not what people want. And this is the thing that I'm constantly feeling like I'm banging my head against the wall, because what you have is a Liberal government misrepresenting Black Canadians and attaching their pro-crime, low safety agenda to a community, and it's not right.
Well, they're listening to a certain part of the Black community. They're listening to the ones in the ivory towers. The people that wrote this report were the two leads, a sociology professor at U of T and a criminal justice lawyer. And I want to read the response to what you were saying on X about this from Zilla Jones, one of the leads on this, because she just was utterly dismissive of you. She replied to your thread by saying, this one goal of Canada's Black justice strategy to transform the conversation around the justice system from being held hostage to small c conservative talking points people repeat without thinking, such as those below, to one that actually responds to public safety needs. We've seen the results of the thinking that they want to follow through on, the thinking that they want to take to the next level, which included things like Bill C-75, which made bail de facto automatic, release people as fast as possible with the least onerous conditions. That's what the law was changed to. And we've seen the results of that. A recent column that I did on the front page of the Sun, 256 people arrested for homicide and charged with homicide while they're out on bail or parole or some other statutory release. They want to take this even further on that front and on sentencing fronts. They want to go down a road that has been proven not to work.
Well, and the reality is their response to me does not address the core thrust of my argument, which is that their radical policy recommendations to the Trudeau Liberals will cause more crime, more drugs, and more chaos. The evidence is there, as you just mentioned, Brian. Your work in showing that the Liberal bail policies have led to 256 people killed in 2022 by individuals on bail or released back into the community from the justice system, almost 1/3 of all homicide victims. The evidence is clear that Liberal policies aren't working. And if people who write these reports want to attack me because I'm telling the truth, by all means, go ahead.
Well, they want to dismiss you. You're not part of the conversation. And you and I have had talks about this before. You're the wrong type of Black man. So you can't be listened to. You don't hold the same views as the people in the ivory towers. But, so one guy who's a criminology prof at University of Ottawa, when I posted that I'm going to believe you and stand with you on this one, he said, oh, just because he's an ideologue with you. Before I leave, give us a quick summary. Give us a quick thumbnail of Jamil Jivani, because what law school did you go to? Was it? Well, it wasn't that one that starts with an H. It was the other one, right?
Yeah, I went to Yale University, and I grew up in a Black community. I have a Black father. I have done a lot of work trying to improve the relationship between police officers and communities and young people in particular. People can make this about me if they want to, but I'd really like for everyone to focus on the facts of the situation. I'm happy to be a messenger of the truth, whatever that truth may be, because I believe that's my job. And it was my job when I was working with you, Brian, at the Toronto Sun. It's my job now as a member of Parliament for Durham. And I want to keep people safe. We clearly have a system that is broken. By any measure, crime is worse, more people are suffering, more people are scared, and we need to address that. If you have a justice system that is not addressing community safety, you do not have a functional justice system. That is the problem we have right now. And whatever they want to pick at in terms of my biography or my racial background or whatever it may be is irrelevant to the reality that we need a system that works for all Canadians, and they're not going to marginalize and isolate Black people outside of that conversation about the truth.
One final question. What does this do to Lady Justice, the statue that we always see? It's supposed to be blindfolded. Justice is supposed to be blind, and this is injecting more race into the conversation.
Well, the truth is that I believe by injecting race into it, they believe they can justify more radical policies than the Liberals have already implemented. And I don't think that's going to work. We're seeing all across this country people from all racial and cultural backgrounds standing against this Liberal government. And it's going to continue. There is going to be a change coming, and it's going to be a diverse and multicultural change because everybody's life is getting harder under this Liberal government.
All right. He's not an ideologue. He approaches the issues with thoughtful facts and inquiry. Jamil, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you, Brian.
Let us know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.